Hello, I'm Mark Baer. You're watching the YourTown television show. My guest, Mark Tanous,
Hello.
artist.
Hello. Thank you.
So we're going to start today talking about the show at the Monterey Museum of Art.
Okay.
Water.
Water.
Water. So let's
Right.
explain what
That show is. So that show, Water, A Story to be Told, sort of continues on the theme that I find very, very important in our contemporary world, this idea of how we're treating water. You know, we're right here on the coast and we need water for absolutely everything. And so I am always excited about beginning a conversation about water and how it intersects with our lives and how we need to take care of it, how it's just so damn important and it's being, you know, sort of taken away from us and then sold back to us. It's being poisoned. And I just find it such a wonderful, refreshing element. So I'm excited by water. I love water.
So following your work for a number of years, you have a very strong narrative core to it.
Yes.
So you have the object. As a ceramicist, it's usually a
vessel or something. Yeah.
You know, and it's you start with clay.
Clay.
And then you have a story and
characters.
Characters and a mythos.
Yes.
And,
yes.
And all of relatively equal proportions.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. That's a good point.
So it's a full-on little movie in a piece of clay.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. I do really enjoy the narrative part of presenting my work. I've created this entire population of artists that I work with, the reductionists. I've written a manifesto for them. I've written a history for them. I've given them names and I've captured pictures and abstracted them. And then I create the work as if it was them. Or I make the work and then I attach it to one of my co-creators. Fortunately or unfortunately,
even people who know things don't know much about art or art history.
Right.
And so the reductionists, they could be real.
You know,
and
Mark,
it sounded real enough. I believed it.
Yes.
And I guess that's your point.
You know what? You're real. I'm real. We're a couple of Marks. But I'm going to create something that's in between that feels also real. And one of my favorite moments was one of my co-instructors at the college came up to me when we first got to know each other about 10 years ago. And he said, you know, I went to art school and I've heard of the Impressionists and the Surrealists. He said, but the Reductionists, I think I missed them. And I was just tickled because they're real to me.
Well, let's say who they are now.
Well, this show in particular had Trudy Zimmerman, who was an artist, a woman artist who lived in San Francisco back in the 60s. She was also a teacher, like a preschool teacher. So she was very interested in life and protecting life. So she makes these ceramic eggs, but then we juxtapose them with these dangerous situations, as you'll see in the image. And then there's Danny Miyamoto, who's the crop dusting pilot from the Mid-Valley, out in the Central Valley. And he's just watched as these giant corporations have stolen water out of the ground, poisoned our produce, and then delivered it back to us. And then there's J.J. Jenks, who was a street sweeper, driving one of those big trucks, you know, down the city. A lot of my stuff is centered around San Francisco because I'm a San Francisco guy. I love San Francisco. And so he's just watched all the life of water get mixed with the garbage and the oil and washed down into our bay. So he went and he struck the utility plates on the street and made those impressions, and then made the bottles out of it and made what he called the dry fountains. So these, you know, because we used to have water fountains all around. Right. You know, we'd walk up, there's a place you can get some water. You'd pull it out of somebody's hose, but that just doesn't exist anymore.
So you as as an actor. So you
I was a
created
bad
character,
actor.
but you created characters.
Yeah.
Then you got to be an actor as an artist to create their art.
Yes.
So that allows you freedom to go somewhere that Mark Tanous wouldn't go.
That's true.
That's
kind of fun.
That allows a lot.
Yes, it does give me a nice breadth of what I can offer, because I can attach myself to a history that's not mine, but that I've made up. Yeah.
And so the originality of the work is, well, they don't look like Mark Tanous's, but these are the reductionists.
Yeah.
He's kind of putting this show together as a tribute to them.
Yeah.
So you got to kind of hide behind it's very theatrical.
It's very theatrical. I did have a couple of decades in LA being theatrical, and there is a movie part of it that I really like, the performance part of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I did one show called Strike, A Love Story in Porcelain, where I actually hired an actor from LA to pretend to be the person that had discovered the ceramic bowling pins that were made by the fallen bowling star. And there were people at the opening asking him about when he had discovered them, was his little cabin in Carmel that he lived in. And so, yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, it's very funny, very tongue-in-cheek. But they all were very serious artists in their own. All your
Yes.
cast were very serious.
Yeah, the cast, right.
And you got to, as the artist, got to stand back from it all, which is kind of its own pleasure.
It is.
You don't
absolutely.
have to take it personally, and it allows you to freedom. It's hard to be an artist if it's all about you.
Yes. It's very nice.
Because you're inhibited. You stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like writing in the third person. It's
Yes.
it's very liberating. So that's one of the things that I've always seen in your shows.
Yes.
And I still don't know if people get it or not at this point.
Sometimes they do, and when I had somebody once say, "Wow, you're trying to fool me," and it's like, no, I'm not trying to fool you. I will tell you at any given time everything I've just told you. I just don't tip my hat. If you say, "Who's this guy?" I'll explain it to you. Yeah. But I just don't go in saying that, because I want that to be part of your experience. I want you to enjoy.
You create enough trust that they believe you. So that's your job, is making.
Maybe.
You know that they don't. Nobody. We all think we know a lot until we meet somebody who knows a lot more than we do.
Right, like David.
like what we just saw.
Yes.
And but I trusted it, and I know better.
Yeah.
But I totally trusted it.
Right. You've been there before.
Yeah. So I go, is this, and I saw how each of the different pieces. So it allows you to really expand your language.
Yes.
And because otherwise you're going to make the same thing.
Right.
Mark Tanous might do the same thing over and over.
Right. Just yes.
And that's the worst curse for an artist.
Yes.
So you found a way to be new.
Yes.
And continue.
Yes.
Which is a really important thing for an artist.
Oh yeah, because you have certain restrictions within your medium and your own imagination, and it's nice to be able to use somebody else's imagination.
Yeah, and it's real. It's just like fiction.
Yes.
So
it is.
So you've kind of put your whole life together to make these new things.
Yes, this parafiction is sort of the formal term of it. It's sort of adjacent.
Adjacent. Reality adjacent.
Yes. Yeah.
Let's talk about the artist that influenced you.
Okay. Well, you were talking about Duchamp earlier. I really love the thought conceptual stuff is really fun for me. And then there was a groundbreaking ceramist named Peter Volkas, who I really appreciated the fact that he took and grabbed clay and pulled it out of craft and really held it up and said, "This is fine art." And he did that back in the 60s. And he was when we were talking about discipline and the ability to execute things, he was an absolutely beautiful studio potter, made beautiful work, won awards for his, casseroles and dinnerware sets. But he went to Black Mountain College for a summer.
Carolina,
Yeah. and was there with Rauschenberg and Cage and Albers and
So he's part of that crew.
yes,
That's
it just blew his mind. And he came back. He was teaching at Otis, and it came back, and he started, working in a different way. And they kicked him out of Otis, and he went up to Berkeley. And I just so appreciate that willingness to, just say, no, this is art. This is art. Because clay, it has a history in craft, and people keep trying to drag it back into utilitarian and functional wear. And I want to be beyond that. It's just more fun.
There is no rule.
There is no rule.
Yeah, art is what you say it is.
Yes.
And then if you say it is, you better back it up.
Right.
And I think that's the rule.
Yeah. Okay. I'll go with that.
So let's talk about teaching, because right now you're at MPC, or Monterey Peninsula College, and you've been voted Teacher of the Year, which is a pretty cool thing. Or
I'm a finalist
you're
for it.
You're a finalist for Teacher of the Year.
Yeah.
Even the finalist, that's still a pretty cool thing.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about how teaching, because when I went to the show at the museum, I ran into somebody who'd been in your pottery class.
Oh, okay.
And they said, "Oh, he is the best teacher."
Oh,
so
thank
that's
you. Yeah.
which I know that you love hearing.
Yeah. Well, I love teaching. I love teaching for many reasons, but showing a student the possibility of something is what I love. I love it when they walk up and they've got something and they go, "Oh, I'm not sure about this." And I'm able, because of my experience, I'm able to say, "Well, you could do this. You could do that. Why don't we try this?" And it opens them up to an idea that they might not have had before. That's what's really fun for me, to get students thinking a new way. Because that's what all creativity is, right, Mark? We're just trying to turn things around and look at them from a different way. And as an instructor, I have this great place where I can do this, because everybody's open and nobody knows anything, right? None of us know anything, but they're new to it, and
they're new to not knowing nothing.
They're new, yes. So I do thoroughly enjoy the teaching. And it's when I have people contact me, years down the road. I had a kid call me from UC Santa Cruz, and he was in an economics class, and he said, what we talked about, 3 or 4 years ago, that really made me think differently about how I was looking at this problem. That's the kind of stuff that I enjoy.
That's really great.
Yeah.
So let's talk about putting a show like Water together. What comes first, the art, the idea, the scenario? I mean, how do you see the whole thing?
It's interesting. Sometimes it happens in multiple ways. Sometimes I will make an object and I will go, "Oh yeah, this is a Trudy Zimmerman piece." Other times I will be thinking about what kind of thing would that artist make. So it comes in different ways. Usually a show, like a current show, like Water right now, this show, started with a piece from an old show where I will make an object and go, "Oh, this doesn't work for this, but I'm going to set this aside." And then I will come back and revisit that, and then I will expand on that idea. So, sometimes the characters bring the work to me. Sometimes I assign the work to the characters.
You've brought your Hollywood history with you.
Yeah. Well,
because you're making your own they're little movies.
They are little movies.
And
they're short films. I like the theatrical presentation of it.
Do you think you could do the stuff you're doing if you had to be Mark Tanous all the time?
The way I got away from being Mark Tanous was first I started naming my pieces, right? I would give them an interesting title. And then I would make a bunch of pieces that would work together, and they would have associated titles. And then I would figure out how to collect them together into this flight, and I would look at it and go, that could be so-and-so made this. So that's the way it kind of grew from just, taking a vase and giving it a name to a collection of objects, giving them affiliated names, and then bringing in somebody that would have thought about that.
So I don't know if non-artists know how surprised an artist is when they make something new.
Yes. Well, you're an artist.
And I see a lot of surprise in your work. You're
Yes.
going, oh!
Yeah.
And I can feel that in the work, and that's what keeps it vibrant.
Yes. Yeah, you have to be open to a new and better idea at any given point.
Yeah, I get the feeling that you don't know the outcome.
I don't know the outcome. I don't. When I think back, I was thinking about that one piece. I think it's called Endangered Species. It's the one with the barbed wire and the fence and the little quail. And it's got this rock in the center, and it's a fountain. And it's got bird shit on it. And I was thinking about, well, that rock started as a bowl. Those quail started as a little decorative piece. And it just kept growing and growing. And then I grabbed some barbed wire from a friend. And then it's like slowly became this little environment that we have to protect that's dangerous and precious to us.
I feel it's really important for the artist to always be in love. I guess that's what I was saying with the work.
Yes.
Because I guess I can also tell when an artist falls out of love. Do you know what that?
I know exactly what you mean.
Saying?
And I believe I honestly said to somebody I was in a conversation with 2 days ago, it's like, you know what? I really like my stuff. And if you can just like your own stuff, then you're fine. It doesn't matter.
Because even when even if it's the delusion when you see something and you like it, and then the day you stop liking it is usually the day you see the next step.
Right.
So
that's a good point. Yeah.
How that works for you.
Yes.
Because then you go, how was I thinking like that?
Yeah.
When you have the next step.
Yes.
But you can see it, and you can live with it, and you can love it until the minute the scales fall from your eyes and you don't love it, but the next idea is there.
Yes.
And usually that's the latter.
Yeah.
Isn't it a mystery?
It's an absolute mystery, but it's a joy.
Yeah. So
it's so much fun.
Anyway, I'm Mark Baer. You're watching the YourTown television show. Mark Tanous.
Thank you.
This is so great.
Pleasure. Thank you, Mark.
Okay, we've done it.